Good morning, everybody. My name's Katie King, and I'm here to spend the next hour with you talking about digital disruption, looking primarily at the impact on sales, marketing, and HR, the impact that AI or artificial intelligence will have on your business and primarily on these business functions. First of all, an introduction. I've met some of you that have joined today's webinar at various recent events and conferences, so it's great to have a few familiar faces, but also welcome to our other guests. My name, as I say, it's Katie King, and I day-to-day run a content marketing agency called Zudicas, but I'm also a director of transformation at an organisation called Digital Leadership Associates, and co-founder of a company called AI in FM meaning facilities management. So I'm involved in the world of business transformation and marketing, but also hands dirty, stuck into specifically the world of AI as well, with AI and FM. I'm a massive fan of social business and evolving to use digital channels, particularly in the last few years, for talent recruitment, for sales, as well as for marketing. And as a result of that passion and that activity, I've been able to use the content that we put out there to secure speaker engagements, for example, TEDx talks, and much more besides. So, I like to think of this as a mini case study in what this can actually do for your business, not just in terms of profile, but more importantly in terms of helping you achieve the various business goals that you've set out as an organization to achieve. So firstly, welcome to Zudicas, as I mentioned. I believe it's essential to be in the right mindset for change. So as an organization, we are continually evolving and innovating and helping our clients to do exactly that. And the reason for that is simple, and we're looking really at smartphones and social channels in the last 3 or 4 years. It's been around, and particularly for 7 years, and how they have fundamentally changed the way that all organizations, large, small, across every industry sector, how they not only buy, whether that's business to consumer or business to business, but also the way that they sell, the way that they recruit staff and partners, and the way that they communicate both personally and in business. So that's what we're going to be focused in primarily. So that's really setting that scene for, a new world of, internet usage, of social channel usage, and increasing use of big data. And here are some of the statistics on the slides in front of you, just looking at the comparison of the total population here in the UK and the number of internet users. And very close behind that, 42 million active social media users as well. So the statistics speak for themselves in terms of this penetration of internet and social usage in just the country, in the UK here, for example. So if we are looking at our businesses and we're considering the way that we run them and the way that we train and organize our sales and marketing and HR staff, and I think it's fair to say that we are living in a world where that traditional salesperson, I normally would say salesman, but let's not be gender specific here, but often that salesperson, may be relying on old tools, maybe relying on old ways of doing business. And if they don't evolve, if they don't get the right kind of training, and if they don't therefore bring themselves into this new world, then they potentially will become obsolete very quickly. So this world of social media, where your prospects, where your potential staff can go on to places like Glassdoor or Instagram and find out about you, find out how well you do your customer service, how you market yourselves, what's the reputation, do you actually offer great customer service? If they're able to do that, then they're the people that are in the driving seat. And you as the brand really are needing to adapt And so therefore there isn't room in this world for the old school business silos where the management team or the board of the company would sit in their ivory tower at the top of the organization, and where people just didn't communicate or work collaboratively. So we're not in a position for this to continue. If you then look at what that means, up until today, and I think for another couple of years, this is really what we're talking about. Organizations who adapt and evolve into becoming social businesses, where the management team are social media trained and savvy, where they're visible and accessible, and when they're embracing, they have the mindset that I'll be talking about later in the webinar. They have the mindset for disruption and for change. And similarly, the other departments in the organization are collaboratively working together, to build deeper social talent, for example, for HR, to use social media platforms like Instagram or WeChat or Facebook, for recruitment and retention. Of course, marketing, they've been the ones owning this for a number of years, but their role there is to build credibility and profile and likability, and to work with sales to engage prospects through the different journey that they're on. And equally, customer services, needing to understand that someone isn't just going to come onto your Twitter and expect to receive marketing messages, but actually potentially will come on and complain or ask questions, and so therefore customer service need to be tuned into this world as well. So that brings us up to the modern day, and many organizations are still struggling or still getting to grips, with evolving into being social businesses. Whilst they're still either burying their head in that sand or still trying to get to grips with that, we're confronted now with this next wave of disruption. We've had, the Industrial Revolution, we've had the eras of steam and electricity, or electrification as some describe it. Then we moved into the digital revolution, which we're still in to some degree, but we're really now moving into this fourth wave. The World Economic Forum have described it as the fourth industrial revolution, and it really is a term which captures emerging technology breakthroughs in robotics, in AI, nanotechnology, biotechnology, as well as areas like 3D printing and the Internet of Things. The pictures you're seeing on screen here now are courtesy of London's Science Museum. I went along to the robot exhibition a few weeks back and took these there, and I'd highly recommend a visit to that if you can spare a half a day, one weekend perhaps. Certainly worth a visit, and will give you some real insights, not only into the journey to where we are today, but what this world might look like, and just how incredible the opportunities are. So if we look at various influencers, if we look at analysts like Gartner, and there are many, many others like Forrester and Ovum and eConsultancy, they all agree that the smart machine technologies are going to be the most disruptive class of technologies over the next decade. And that covers many of the technology areas that I just mentioned here, from autonomous cars with Tesla and Elon Musk, through to smart workplaces where, in, for example, the built environment, in architecture, where they will be able to put in sensors in washrooms, where they'll be able to gauge the temperature and really personalize the experience in an office, as well as all of the data and the ability to run a front of house reception and cleaning, very much using artificial intelligence embedded devices and apps, and Actroids and so on. So a bit more of that further into the webinar. You can see from the money that's being invested by various organisations, including the UK government, that this is an area that's being taken very, very seriously. So we're looking here at around about £17 million being invested by the UK government, carrying out research into robotics and AI by British universities. So you can just see how seriously it's being taken. And again, some of our well-known philanthropists and business people. This was an interview a few weeks back by James Dyson, looking at his own plans to build his own university and putting in nearly £2.5 billion worth of investment in this area of AI and robotics, so that his organisation is in a great position as part of this fourth industrial revolution. And he talks about post-Brexit UK, being innovative and being really fast growing so that it can compete as a country with what he describes, as the tiger economies of the Asia region. But what we're talking about here is not just about tomorrow. It's not just about the next decade and the next 50 years. And, we are talking about technology that is here in our homes, in our world, in our businesses today. So, Nest, for example, the Amazon Echo, when we search for films on Netflix, all of this has AI embedded into it. So when we're on Facebook and Facebook is showing us so-called relevant posts, when we're Googling something and Google is actually auto-suggesting what we actually search for, when we're looking at our Siri and that's voice activated, this is all machine learning. This is AI embedded into these devices, and it's here and now, and it's hidden without, it's not actually us being aware necessarily, but it's there. So similarly, the Tesla self-driving cars. So these are activities, these are technologies that are already in our world today. I've already briefly mentioned AI, chatbots. If we talk about customer service, for example, then this is the next big shift that we're looking at. So IBM, in one of its recent surveys, talks about 65% of millennials actually preferring to interact with bots. And that's an important shift in the way that we do our customer service. So we're seeing here a massive rise in mobile messaging apps and the ability to offer this service, round the clock, 24/7. And that's why in retail the chatbots have, been really, really successful. So we've got brands here that are using them to actually improve that customer experience, to be able to offer personalized recommendations and services and actually automate the purchasing process. And that's the same across the various social media platforms that I've already touched upon, Messenger, WhatsApp, but also project management tools like Slack, and major brands like Uber and Burberry already successfully engaging and acquiring new customers by using chatbots like this. So it's certainly a way forward for many brands in the retail sector. But again, some of you on today's webinar will be from small businesses, from the public sector, from all different industry sectors. And I think it is fair to say that AI is representing this next wave of computing that will have change and benefits, not just in all of our lives, but in all industry sectors. And I just want to touch upon a few of those now. The first one being retail. I mentioned that briefly a moment ago. Here's a survey recently carried out by a retail management organisation that says 45% of these retailers intend to start using AI within 3 years. So again, we're not looking a decade or 20 years down the line. We're talking over the coming few years that it is going to be people exploiting machine learning and considering, how it drives their commercial decision making. So if you consider big data, really, the weather data, data about who's stepping into the store, what sales have actually taken place, which product lines are successful, that kind of information will help retailers position things differently in the store. Actually help them consider when people are browsing, do they add this into the mix? Do they actually change that based on immediate, decisions that are being made, so on immediate things that are happening in that store. So you've got an opportunity where you've got what's called augmented intelligence, where in the store, they are able to use the big data that's gathered by these devices to work alongside, a human buyer or a human merchandiser. And that's going to make a massive difference in cutting down on risks that they might take or mistakes that they might make based on a gamble that they took, by plucking something out of thin air. So a lot of what we're describing here is big data, it's the Internet of Things, it's the ability to capture that information across all different kinds of devices. If we move into a different industry sector now and consider the financial services sector, you've got them already. I did it the other day with my bank where I was able to record my voice 5 times into my phone so that next time I log in, they will be able to detect me through my voice. So you've got the banks and other financial institutions using image and voice analysis so that they can authenticate their customers remotely. And I think this is going to be widely used to profile behaviour and identify risks in a similar way to the retail example a few moments ago. So I think we're talking here about risk management, fraud detection, which again plays a massive role in the banks offering great customer service. So as a bank, as an insurance company, any sort of organisation in this field, they need to consider the different AI techniques. They need to consider the impact that cultural changes and technology decisions will have. So like I mentioned at the beginning with the social business, we're looking here at a management team of an organisation, whether that's a university, a retailer, a bank, a small business, needing to consider how all these different technology changes and innovations are impacting the investment that they make in technology, the investment that they make in their marketing. So increasingly, the marketeers and the IT stroke technologists are having to genuinely collaborate really closely, because a marketeer may be wanting to invest in a software as a service based project management tool or a social platform that actually historically would have been a technology purchase. So again, we're having to work collaboratively as a board of a company, as a management team, to prepare for those decisions. And I understand, how tricky that can actually be for organizations. If we move on and consider the business function of sales and marketing, then AI, is probably the area where most people are aware of its impact. So if we consider customer relationship management, then really AI is going to be the game changer in this space. It's going to give, through the big data that it offers, your sales and marketing employees, incredible skills, incredible knowledge. So it will eradicate that, the forgetfulness, the human person who gets sick, who has days off, who forgets to do things. So it will enable a level of customer service, a level of personalization, which is going to be very impressive to a customer, and in time they will come to expect it. It will enable you to offer them the right products and services at the time when they're actually actively looking for them. So again, further statistics here looking at the anticipated benefits, particularly in marketing, from using artificial intelligence. So 60% will be about improving the insights that you get. Then 56% considering the detailed analysis, and then 53% actually identifying the prospective customers. So we know it's going to revolutionize marketing. It already has. In the last few years, social business has radically changed it. But this is going to be a layer of insight that will radically change the way that we can offer insight to our customers and the services that we will be able to actually offer them. If we move on and consider HR, or human resources, which is touching upon talent recruitment, attracting and retaining the right kind of staff, then again another survey here by IBM's found that nearly half believe that AI will transform the way that they acquire their talent. And 49% believe it will transform the way that they run their payroll and their benefits for staff, the administration of those kinds of business functions in their organizations. But again, if we look at various HR leaders across all different industry sectors, here are 10 of their views on how AI will impact their business function of human resources. So we're looking here at screening and reducing bias, because AI will be able to automate the way the CVs are screened and the way that candidates, for example, are selected for interview. In a similar vein, reducing errors and improving compliance. The biggest one, I'd say, for many, is number 3, which is augmenting the way that the corporate training, is actually run. Yes, it will continue to be done face-to-face, but it could be done in combination with some AI-embedded blended learning, and devices that will enable a bank or a retailer or any kind of organization to log into a portal, and for there to be personalized learning journeys for staff across all different business functions. And there are apps and there are training programs and learning management systems that are out there already that have this kind of technology embedded into them, and this is going to dramatically improve over the coming year or two. And then again, of course, considering how you measure the success of this investment. So you'll see AI being used, as far as the metrics and analysis of this kind of work is concerned. So enhancing the assessment centres that people go to, reaching out, through to candidates, providing a streamlined service for them so that they are getting the right impression of your organisation. And then once they've been offered the job and they're joining your organisation, streamlining the way that that employee is onboarded, whether that's some kind of staff handbook, training, communication, cultural, sharing, the values and ethics of the organisation. Again, much of that will be automated. Workplace learning, again, that's ongoing, similar to the corporate training, but also revealing new insights on talent and the people that you want to keep in the organisation, how they need to evolve, how they need to have an ongoing journey within your organisation. But also, I believe number 10 here is probably the most important, because much of the data crunching, much of the analysis that can be done by AI should free up the HR person, the salesperson, the marketeer to focus on the aspects of their work that are the true value add. And that really is the human touch. And I think that is, AI is going to be a long way off that general artificial intelligence where it has the cognitive ability, of a human. That's a long way off. So in the meantime, we need to, focus on the areas of, being human that are important, and enable and use devices and invest in the right kind of technology that does automate many of the other functions, that enable us to be more productive, enable us to make greater margins. So if we consider what I've described here of the social business and AI, how can you, as a small Kent business, as a local authority, as a retailer in Dubai or wherever you might be in the world, whatever industry sector, however small or large you are as an organisation, I think these key points here will be really important to you. And it needs to start, and I'm talking here particularly the people that run the organisation, the board, the management team, they need to have the right mindset. Typically they will be I'm not going to generalise too much, but certainly in many industry sectors they will be of a certain age, and they perhaps will be of an age where they feel uncomfortable with this kind of change, where historically over the last few years they have pushed social media down to their marketing teams and they've hired in millennials and they've considered it the domain of their children or even their grandchildren, and that can no longer be the case. They need whatever their age, to get into that right mindset for innovation and for change. And they need to personally be adopting it. I think one of the dangers is that everybody jumps on the bandwagon, innovates, changes, disrupts their business models, changes the way that they structure their organization. And to a degree, they need to do that, but they can't lose sight of their own business goals. They can't lose sight of their mid and long-term goals as a business, which might be an exit on a stock exchange, might be international growth, might be partnering with certain organizations. They need to be paramount still, and then you need to be doing your own research in your organization, see how your competitors are adapting to this change, find out what potential investments you could make, you know, what the technology opportunities are for you to adapt and change and improve. Which brings me nicely on to the third one there, which is really you controlling your own agenda. Fundamental to that, though, if you are going to adapt and evolve and thrive in this new world, is having the right kind of training. Whether that's training that can be offered from within your organization by your HR or learning and development teams, or whether you need to close that skills gap by buying in the right kind of training. And, you know, being in the right mindset, being active on the right social channels, using the right kind of AI and other embedded devices and platforms will help you to hire and attract the right kind of staff. So it may be that you need to attract the right kind of data scientists, or perhaps you need to attract the right millennials to help take your business forward, or perhaps you need to attract the right kind of legal talent, you know, experienced people that want to come and work for an organization that is geared, you know, for this fourth industrial revolution. So the HR talent piece is about social attraction and social talent recruitment and acquisition, but social selling is fundamental too. Social selling in the way that's being done now and has been done for the last couple of years through thought leadership on social channels, but also using AI embedded devices and tools, and investing in the right kind of apps that prepare you for the next wave of social selling. Now, to help you on your way, it's important to consider, you know, what's out there for you, to look at funding from Innovate, crowdfunding, and other kinds of funds and pots of money that perhaps are being put aside in your country, in your industry sector. Certainly something you need to go and look at. You know, in many industry sectors, they realise as a sector that it's fundamental. So talk to your trade bodies, you know, search and find, you know, what sources of income and funding are there for you. And again, as far as preparation goes, when you start out and you have the right strategy, you do your research, you also need to consider, if I invest in this, what's available to me in terms of evaluating my success. And then the final one there is staying safe, considering the legislation, considering the way that you need to protect your organization as you start to invest in more and more technologies. That becomes a really important area to consider. So I know that from experience, having met some of you, having talked to some of you at some of the recent events that we met at, that I presented at, that some of you are still grappling with the social business, let alone the AI aspects of things. So I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes on what we've now put together as our 6-point plan to ensure that you have success simply in adopting the social business side of things. So the first is planning and segmenting your audience. Second is finding the right channel. The third is coming up with the right kind of social media strategy, then building profile, differentiating yourself from your competitors, and then taking it to the two next important factors, which are social selling by nurturing relationships and considering the journey that a prospect goes on and how you can encourage them to actually buy from you. So this is a platform, this is a matrix that we use as part of that marketing segmentation. And I think this is equally important when we plug into social business, you know, the world of AI and that next phase. So you might be looking at your audiences here on the left and considering what your business objective is for them. So is it, if it's an existing client, then you want to retain their business, but you also want to increase value and cross-sell further solutions to them. So they know you already. So as a marketing objective, you need to communicate new products and your wider range of services to them. If it's a new customer, then perhaps you need to secure new partnerships. And perhaps therefore, they may well not be aware of your organization, or they may be aware of you, but need to be educated about the wider portfolio of services that you offer. And then we're into the fourth and fifth columns here, which are how do they need to perceive your organization, and which messages can you embed into all your different channels where they are active in order to reinforce that perception. And the perception needs to be based on what solution does your organization have, which is a solution to a need that that client or prospect actually has. And then the final column there, and again, AI is part of this. How are they influenced? What do they read? What do they listen to? Which brings us on to this next matrix, which is really finding the right channel. So where are they active? Are they on certain chat rooms? Are they at certain AI conferences? Are they reading certain industry journals and so on? So you need to go away and do that research in order to identify them. Then you're coming up with a social strategy. So you're considering securing editorial coverage, for example, creating a blog around that, using LinkedIn.com or LinkedIn Sales Navigator to gauge their interest, securing slots at the right kind of industry networking events, and then this integrated marketing approach, integrated sales and marketing, where you're following up with e-shots and making sure that that whole journey of how someone does business with you is covered. So we're looking at point 4, where you are regularly building profile and thought leadership. You're trying to establish a strong position in your industry sector. You're not just having a profile, for example, on LinkedIn, but you are publishing content. You're actively engaging with people on social networks. And then everybody in your organization can be active, below the line here, but above that are really the thought leaders, the people that are regularly going to publish content that will, in their industry, secure that position of thought leadership. Into the 5th and the 6th phases, really it's about ongoing nurturing of relationships, not just expecting to sell cold to somebody at the point of purchase, but to have an ongoing relationship with them, to build the know, like and trust factor, so that when they are ready to make that purchase, whether it's business to business or business to consumer, they're aware of you, they can see great content, you're sharing your best practice. And then really the final part of that 6-point success is encouraging to actually buy. It's not enough, it's a vanity metric just to have thousands of followers and likes and connections. You need to be able to exploit that and turn that into influence and turn that into leads for your business. How do you do that? It might be email marketing, it might be putting content up on your website where people can actually download material from a gated area where they have to put in that email address, so that you can gather the big data that we've been talking about, throughout that. So that was just a brief look into 6 ways that you can guarantee your success by evolving into being a social business, a business that can then take this next step of fully considering and investing in the right kind of AI and other technologies to gear you for this 4th industrial revolution. So a couple of words on a segment, as part of the decision-making unit that we all are having to consider, whether we sell direct to this target audience or whether we are in business and this is a target audience that really are coming out of university or may well be in the early stages of their career. They're in our organizations already, perhaps, or we're about to start recruiting with them, or actually selling to them. So this is one of the largest generations in history, and they are moving into their prime spending years. They are digitally savvy and they want information and they want access to you and they want to have experiences with brands. So they're used to compelling content, intense experiences, quick replies, as well as casual exchanges rather than a more formal approach that many organizations traditionally took with their PR and their marketing, and personalization 24/7. And they, unlike many of the people that are running their professional content over the platforms, these millennials do trust these messaging platforms and these social media platforms. So the statistics show that they are obviously avid users of their smartphones, and they're concentrating on a number of key apps and instant messaging platforms. Therefore they're spoilt for choice. They want to do mobile banking. They want things that are made very, very easy for them. And, their feedback spreads virally. So I think it's really important to consider, that traction that they give and that their social posts do actually get, and the impact that can have, on your customer service. So if I needed to really sort of summarize and consider, because there's an awful lot of hype about AI, whether we're looking at TV programs, where we're looking at your own industry journals or any conference that you're going along to, we know that this is now on the agenda. So there are a lot of positives. I'll come on in a moment to kind of echo some of the negativity, but on the whole, from the work that I've done, I'm very positive about it, and much of the research that I'm reading and carrying out myself, is in summary very positive. So we're looking here about productivity, a 40% increase in labour productivity over the next 17 years or so. The ability for AI to have a dramatic impact on the size of economies, and you can see there some of the kind of industry, some of the geographic areas that that's actually representing. But probably most importantly is, as far as we're concerned and the businesses that we're in, AI actually solving many business challenges, whether that's slow growth to, in some sectors like the care sector, an aging workforce, and then in other sectors, for example, one I'm involved in, construction and property and facilities management, weak productivity. So, they are some of the positives. I've touched upon this briefly. Again, much of the research I've done and that I'm reading and right up to date now, as of today even, we're looking at the ability of AI across legal, across medicine, across marketing, and pretty much every industry sector, being able to do some of the number crunching or some of the grunt work. So if we took an average B2B sales rep, then they're spending, only a third of their working day actually selling. So AI, just from a sales rep point of view, will free them up to do more of the actual selling, because it is enabling them to analyze, to qualify the leads, to do the research for them before they go in and meet people, to personalize and to make that journey with sales and marketing much more streamlined. So, anything that, any task that can be done by following some kind of template, likelihood is that tomorrow, in the near future, that can be done by a machine. So these sort of high leveraged aspects of what people do will free people up to do the negotiation, to do the strategizing, to do the things that require that human touch and that, as I say, that empathy and that cognitive ability that humans have. So if we actually then touch upon some of the real concerns that people have, then one of them is that we're all going to be out of a job. So are we looking at a future where there is a mass low-skilled unemployment and inequality, and the need, which some of the Scandinavian countries have been considering, the need for some form of universal basic income for everybody? Potentially. Or will the automation of customer service, of marketing, of sales actually be the same as technological advances that we've seen before, where there have been labour saving changes, but we as humans have been able to adapt to those. So if we take the mobile network company TalkTalk as an example, then what they've done is have a hybrid where they have an AI call center that's a mix of AI embedded devices with human beings behind the scenes. So what they're saying here in a quote is, we've seen the total workforce in customer service hasn't gone down. When you automate the mundane tasks, you can free up your resources to levels that you weren't able to afford before. So actually, ironically, the AI is enabling organizations to be more human. And many people in the banking environment have said the same, that they are getting a better service now because of that mix of automation that's doing some of the grunt work, freeing up the the human operators to handle the calls more quickly and more thoroughly. So there's that ironic twist of AI actually making the service more human. But it would be wrong of me not to touch upon some of the negatives, and you only have to go and listen and read what the eminent scientist Professor Stephen Hawking has been saying. Perhaps he's throwing out something really contentious here to force us all to take note, but one of his most recent pieces of advice or predictions is that we need to consider colonizing another planet, within 100 years. And I remember talking a couple of years ago at a conference about how reassured I was that space travel was accelerating so fast, because perhaps the robots will be turning on us and forcing us off Earth. It's obviously a bold speculation, but I think one of the things he is trying to achieve is to get us all to consider programming the right kind of ethics into AI. And this is a subject that I'm really passionate about. If you consider, look at what's happening in the world, look at the bombings, look at wars that have continued for millennia. Many are nationalistic, people are protecting their own territories, people are protecting their own industry sectors, their own countries. And what's worrying is that there's nobody really grasping the fact that we do need to consider, what we consider to be ethics here in the UK to be programmed into our AI may be quite different in another part of the world. So I believe, as countries, as governments, as academics all over the world, as business people, we have an important role to play in safeguarding, our children's future and our business's future by collaborating on that subject. So I'm going to stop the recording here, but give you the opportunity to ask any questions that you may well have. For those of you that are listening to this, not listening to this live, thank you for joining us. Please come to our website and read some of our blogs. Please chat to me, through my Twitter here at KTE King, and I'm happy to connect across other platforms such as LinkedIn as well. So thank you for joining us today, and I'll give those on the live webinar the opportunity to ask any questions that you may well have.